This is Carl Polachuk, and you're listening to the SMB Community Podcast, produced by and for the Small Biz Thoughts community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. Hi, this is Carl. Welcome to another SMB Community Podcast. I'm joined today by Ahin Thomas, who's Vice President of Backblaze, and they make B2 cloud storage and computer backup. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Carl. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So why don't you give us a little bit on your background and how you got to be here?
Well, as most people in storage infrastructure, I started out my career as a songwriter. And that naturally led me into realizing, being a professional musician is quite taxing. So went to business school and actually started my career, the real part of my career in eCommerce. I was the director of eCommerce for Sears Holdings. And from there, started a collaborative database advertising company for the wine industry. So slinging booze, which is also a lot of fun. But that got me really interested in the mechanics of how businesses grow and how they actually sustainably acquire customers, as well as working with small businesses, because when you're kind of funding yourself and under your own steam, the dynamics of that are dramatically different than what you read about in kind of the New York Times and the venture funded things of the world. And I love it. I'm passionate about it. And I found Backblaze. So then I'm getting more into infrastructure, and I found Backblaze both as a company that has that story, 5 founders, all still at their desks today, 13 years after founding the company. We've only ever taken in $3 million. I'd love to tell you more about all that. So we are a startup and a small business ourselves that then cater to a variety of markets, but certainly similar types of SMBs. And it's a lot of fun, and I love providing solutions for our customers.
Very cool. So the website is Backblaze, BLAZE.com.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, we'll put that in the show notes. So what exactly do you do as vice president?
My primary responsibilities are running marketing for us, and marketing at Backblaze means being, and I appreciate how this sounds a bit trite, but being in charge of our storytelling. Because at Backblaze, we don't do much in the way of paid advertising. And we are fundamentally self-funded. So when we do advertise, we expect it to actually pay off. The way we get our customers and the way we keep our customers is by giving them actual solutions. I'm glad you're sitting down for that. It turns out that if you give people actual insights and information, hey, you're a small business and you're thinking about how to set up your file server backup, here's actually how you can do it. 5 choices, they're all complete solutions. Choose one and you'll be great. People tend to respond to that. And so that's where my focus area is really lie.
Very cool. So I got to say, I'm a big fan of Daniel Pink and A Whole New Mind, and I'm all about storytelling as a way to engage people and audiences, and in particular sales and marketing. So what are the products? So are they? You mentioned SMB, but is it strictly for SMB, or is it also for enterprise and other companies?
Yeah, let me so the answer is in large part yes, with what we would consider an SMB focus. So there are 2 products. One is our computer backup product, and that is $5 a month, unlimited data backup of your laptops and desktops. And we are 13 years old. That was our first product. Initially, we focused it on the consumer market. And similar to Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and others, as we gained scale in our consumer offering, that actually funded and scaled out our infrastructure. And then we saw demand from SMBs. Now, of course, if you're serving SMBs and moving your way up within the enterprise space, that they need different feature functionalities. SMBs have admin controls. SMBs are often serviced by what I call MSPs, managed service providers, resellers, VARs. They all mean different things. But fundamentally, if I'm a business, I may have an external person that's really helping me out with my infrastructure.
Right.
So you need features and functionality to help the people that are being hired to help people out. And so that is our focus area for computer backup. Sure, we have some enterprise customers, but generally speaking, if you want to cater to the enterprise, the proper Fortune 100 enterprise, that's a different feature functionality set. And so you have to choose a path. I think you need to focus on your customer.
Right.
So we choose the SMB path, and obviously if people like that, we're happy to take them.
And is the $5 a month, is that per device?
Yes, good clarification. Per device, unlimited.
Is the five, because when you said, hey, unlimited, I'm like, whoa, well, I'll put 1,000 machines on that. So.
Exactly. So we started out as unlimited, and part of our storytelling is the commitment to unlimited. Yes, it is per device, but our definition of a device includes any attached drive. So your laptop and all its external drives, as long as they're attached, all fall within your $5 a month license.
Okay, so it's the unlimited is whatever you can plug into that machine, right? So.
Yes, and we have a lot of people challenge us on that. It's amazing. We see our internal reports about this guy. I think our biggest computer backup customer, I'm forgetting exactly what it was, but it was over 400 terabytes. And you're just wondering, like, the setup involved in that. I mean, we are losing so much money on that guy, but you're just like, I'm not, I can't even be angry with you right now. That's impressive.
Well, and how much of that is useless copies of useless copies?
Well, I mean, we're pretty sure all of it, but a deal's a deal, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have Jungle Disk and I have mapped drives, so that my employees, no matter where I am and no matter where they are, the S drive is the S drive, the R drive is the R drive. Those are essentially unlimited size storage spaces up in a cloud. I think I probably use about 1 terabyte active storage. So would that be covered? Because it's not actually connected to my device. It's mapped, like I can see it on my laptop, but it's up in a cloud somewhere.
Yeah, if it's a networked drive, it is not covered in computer backup. However, for customers that have the more nuanced use case like yourself, nuance is a polite word for more advanced, right? I mean, it takes some level of expertise to just get that set up and orchestrated.
No, you got a Jungle Disk and you go click, click. There you're done.
Well, I'm very happy for your stability on that. But that brings us to Backblaze's second product, which is B2 Cloud Storage, and that's just raw object storage. From a performance and functionality perspective, it's the equivalent of Amazon's S3. The biggest differences with Backblaze is that our storage price is a quarter of the price of S3's. Our download price is 1/9, so we charge 1 penny per gigabyte for download, and it's a much simpler pricing table because our table is 1 row. It is simply 0.5 penny a gig per month for storage, 1 penny a gig for downloads, and that's what it is. You do not need to build custom calculators to figure out your bill.
Right.
And so between those two offerings, what we find is the customers that come to us say, hey, well, that's quite a simple solution. I understand it. It is reliable in that, first of all, it works. And second of all, I can predict how much my bill is going to be every month. And when you come to metered storage, other offerings, that's much more complicated. And then, yes, it's affordable. It's a simple, reliable, affordable, which is, Code, this is the marketing person in me. I'm not supposed to say cheap, right? Because you don't want a cheap surgeon. You don't want a cheap surgeon. But look, at the end of the day, if it all works and it all gets me backed up and I can save some money, well, then, then I'm interested in it.
So with the B2, do you make any distinction between, some vendors have archive storage versus live storage? Do you make such a distinction?
No, it's really funny. So just today we're onboarding a new designer, and so as part of his orientation, I was describing V2 and describing tiers of storage. And you're explaining this. I mean, he's worked in enterprise companies his entire career, and I'm explaining this tiering and this newer cold storage concept. The tier 1, 2, 3 storage is as old as storage, right? This idea of cold storage that other cloud providers have introduced. You're like, oh, sorry, I wanted to use my data. You know, if a file goes to cold storage and it cannot be accessed and it cannot be retrieved, does the file still exist, right? This would be my new code. So Backblaze does not differentiate in our offerings. It's all always on, always available, highly performant. And our belief is, I think our industry, the cloud storage industry, has taken a very valid infrastructure concept of tier 1, 2, 3 storage and bastardized it to introduce higher margin offerings. That's what's really happening. That's about gross margins. It's not about customer use cases. So at Backblaze, we're trying to keep it simple for everybody and just say, here's the offering, and at a price point where you can use it for archive, you can use it for tier 2, the traditional notion of tier 2. Now, the traditional notion of tier 1, there are very few people that I know of that have the bandwidth to do tier 1 cloud natively. And so it's also being very, very upfront with our customers. Yes, cloud is the future. You should shift your infrastructure to some notion of at least hybrid. But you should also be pragmatic about the limitations of your office bandwidth and connectivity.
Right. So, we always ask people here, so the future's already here, right? William Gibson says, right? It's just not widely distributed. So the question is, how soon will we get to the 100% cloud environment with no storage on site?
I'm going to get drummed out of the core for this. Never.
Never.
Never. Well,
so, that's on the long tail of the predictions we've had. So,
well, hook up your guests to a polygraph. So, here are the things I'm not supposed to do on this podcast today, and hopefully it'll get me invited back. So, the cloud guy is not supposed to argue that cloud will somehow fall short of dominating the world. We're definitely supposed to avoid political and regulatory environments. My PR team right now is just fainting. However, the state of infrastructure in the U.S., which is certainly the U.S., is certainly any notion of developed country, I don't buy that we are that close to everybody having super reliable, effectively 5G bandwidth. And for cloud to be 100% penetrated on use cases, that must be true. Because if it's not, and you lose connectivity, your business shuts down. So I think there will always be, and that's what I mean by hybrid cloud, you're always going to need some facility to have data and compute on-prem. Because if it's not on site, that means you have to have reliability connectivity, and I don't buy it.
All right. Well, so as long as we veered off the main path, within the last week, Microsoft announced that you can now, get the SKU and do your Windows in the cloud with no hardware. You can use a laptop, you can use a $200 Google Chromebook, whatever, to access your desktop. Are you saying that's not ready for prime time?
If you're asking me 100% adoption, absolutely not. Now, I'll come back to my inflammatory statement, but what a world we live in where there is cloud, I don't even know how to describe it, but cloud delivered Windows, which, my DOS self would never have been so enamored by Windows. But you're like, gosh, that is really cool and awesome. And it's something that I'm looking at. I'm a Mac guy these days, and for having a variety of solutions, but I kind of just want to do it just to do it.
But you can, yes, I mean, that's the whole point. You can use your Mac to get to your Windows desktop. But the thing is, I think your point is, it works great in the Bay Area, maybe not so much in the middle of Wyoming.
Right, absolutely. And by the way, and even folks in, so I live in San Francisco, our office is in San Mateo. come by. We'll open offer to your listeners. Anybody that wants to visit, we have very strong coffee here. But just the other day in San Francisco for a couple of hours, there was a data outage on 2 of the major cell phone carriers. Still not totally clear what happened, but hipsters were drinking their macchiatos, not knowing what else to do with their days. And if that's going to happen in arguably the most tech-focused city in the nation, yeah, I mean, Montana, Kansas, Minneapolis, these are places where serious people are doing serious things. I don't buy that their bandwidth is ever going to be at the level that they produce at reliably.
Right. All right. Well, we shall see. I'm going to say I'm a little closer to 5 years than eternity, but
Oh no! So you think we have self-driving cars in 5 years?
Oh, I think we have self-driving cars today. They're just not widely distributed. So I actually have an ongoing bet with my daughter. 5 years we bet there would be automatic cars, self-driving cars would be all over the place. We now have 18 months left on that bet. So, we'll see. I might get a beer out of that. So, so tell me from a very practical perspective, if I'm an MSP, what exactly am I buying from you and what exactly am I selling to my clients? Am I selling backup storage or am I selling primary storage? What exactly do I sell? And is the $5 a month end user pricing or my pricing?
Good questions. So let me veer into the semantic, for a second, which is if I'm thinking about primary storage, I'm thinking about the data I am actively working on. And so if that is the definition, you are not looking to Backblaze for your primary storage. You're looking at it as secondary expansion storage, backup, and archive. The $5 a month is great backup and archive for everybody's laptops and desktops, administrative controls with varying access privileges, SSO, and all that good stuff. If you're an MSP, we have 2 options. They both end up in the same spot, which is our partner program on computer backup is we pay 10% of all computer backup sales forever. So when your customer renews, you get your 10% off that renewal. Now we can do it as a renewal check, we can do it as a discount, whatever you want on that end. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and who dings the credit card, you or me?
However you want to set it up. So our system needs a credit card. We have customers that are on invoicing as well. Generally speaking, our MSPs either depends on the relationship with their customer. Either they have their customer's card down and they're getting their points from us, or they put their card down. And often what happens, I'd say the majority of the time, they put their card down, they get their points from us, and then they are passing on margin on top of that to their customer. Because what happens is they look at the alternatives out in the market for companies that do what we do, and they're not $5 a month, they're $10, $12 a month. And so selling rock solid, reliable backup at even say $8 a month is a great price for their customer.
Well, so my preference is always to bundle everything. So, client gets click, 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 antivirus, spam filtering, storage, email, and backup. And it's whatever, $300 a month. So for me, it's a matter of which is the solution I bundle into as the backup piece of that bundle.
That's right. And that's, I think that also speaks, if you're very customer focused, that's why one of the primary reasons the customer wants you. The customer wants you to please deal with it, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you're supposed to do. So, okay, great. Here's your bundle, pay me for it. So with an affordable solution that, again, it starts with being simple and rock solid. And after 13 years and nearly an exabyte of data under management, we are rock solid. Then you can start saying, hey, my margin looks good here. On the cloud storage side with B2, that's a very similar story, at 1/4 of what S3 is. Let's use round numbers instead of half a penny. So with Backblaze, storing a terabyte of data is $5 a month. Well, the customer is used to paying $20 or $25 a month for that very same storage. There's a lot of room in there, and what most of our MSPs are doing is they're offering value-added services and management and all that good stuff. And so they can bring, if they were asked to line item up, they bring cloud storage up to 10, 15 bucks a terabyte a month. And the customer is thrilled because it's a better deal than they can get on their own, and they don't have to deal with it.
Right. Well, I don't know if you've read any of my stuff. So I'm a big fan of what I call the Cloud 5-pack, and that includes 250 gigs of storage for up to, 5 users. If you have 10 users, then it goes to 500 gigs and so forth and so on. So they would literally never be able to buy enough storage, right? They would never need that much storage, even if they had copies of unused stuff. So,
right.
Yeah. So, and, the only thing that worries me, I don't know if it worries you, is that the cost of storage is literally driving towards zero. So how do you stay in business?
Yeah, so there are a couple things in there. Let's talk about the cost of storage. People believe the cost of storage is driving to zero, but one of the biggest things about Backblaze and what differentiates us is, again, I understand that everybody claims to be transparent. But we are transparent. What do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about our business model a moment. One thing we're known for is we publish the hard drive failure rates of every hard drive in our farm every quarter. So we're the largest source, and we publish that on our blog for anybody to use. We're the largest source of performance data on hard drives on the planet. In addition, we just refreshed it. We've published our cost per gigabyte stored. And I'm blanking on it. I think it's Cricker's law, if I'm remembering correctly, is the equivalent of Moore's law, which is basically saying its cost storage is heading to zero. Just like Moore's law, it's empirically not true. If you look at the cost per gigabyte over time, there is a floor to it, and every time it hits the floor, it bounces right back up. Now, if you're a little cynical, you think about there are only really 2 drive manufacturers left on the planet. And if you overlay their release dates of new models and increased density, it ends up being really close to every time we hit that floor. But over the last 13 years, we've seen it time and time again. But costs are falling, and how does Backblaze stay in business? We've actually, another reason why people choose us and certainly MSPs is you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, really what's happening if I'm an MSP, I'm putting my name, the MSP's name, on the solution. That's who the customer is buying. So you got to know your vendors are rock solid behind you. Well, at Backblaze, what you know is we've published our COGS on our blog, and we make a 50% gross margin. We've published that in 13 years. We've taken in $3 million of investor capital. We've open sourced our storage infrastructure, so you can see exactly what's going on. And we've been around for 13 years and have almost an exabyte of data spread out among customers in 160 countries. So unless we are proactively lying about something, and frankly, that just seems like a lot of work, we have a sustainable business. Now, people will debate, hey, 50% gross margin, that's not tech, that's not SaaS. Don't really care. It's a great business. And
exactly.
when your employees are the shareholders, we get to decide, and it's one of my favorite parts about Backblaze, and I said it, I resonate kind of with the SMB lifestyle. We get to decide what we're going to do next year. Obviously we all like our paychecks, so we would like to have those next year, and we make decisions, but our growth rates are driven by what we think we can do, not what an investor who needs to exit within 3 years needs us to do.
Right. So you mentioned other countries, because we get always people asking, hey, my data has to stay in Canada, my data has to stay in New Zealand or whatever. Do you have all of that set up so that people in other countries can pick where their storage goes?
Not all of that. We recently this year, a big step for us, we opened our first data center in Amsterdam, in Europe, in Amsterdam. In doing that, we introduced what we call the EU Central Region, using air quotes, because what else are you going to call it?
Because of Brexit.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, right? When you look at over history, we're like, well, why don't we call it the Amsterdam region? You're like, well, because we had planned to be around for a long time, and these days those names can change. And even EU Central, like, oh no, but we went with EU Central. Millennium ago it would have been Athens West or something. So we set up EU Central. We have US West, so you can control if you want your data in either the US or in the EU. But today those are our regions, and we are actively looking at expansion. And candidly, there's a certain amount of we have to just keep up with our growth, but strategically where we introduce the next region, we're not that sure yet.
All righty. And from a very MSP perspective, my clients probably would never know that you existed, but I need to know, what does my console look like? Do I see my clients each separately, or do I have to log in completely differently for each client and only look at that one client's storage?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the direct answer to your question is very good news. You log in once. What we do, our management idea, we call it groups. And so one or many administrators can manage one or many groups. Each group can have different privileges and different accounts in it. So what most MSPs will do is they'll set up one or two groups per customer. Maybe one group is, I have full access to the data. I can go in and restore files myself. And then there's an unmanaged group within that customer, HR, legal, whatever. And then they just have all of their groups. In the fourth quarter this year and the early part of next year, there's a number of reporting options that we think is going to make our MSPs lives even easier. And so I want to be clear, we are not done developing that product, but it is, ready for prime time and use.
Very cool. So now, since we have 2 minutes left, let me ask the question that you were probably dreading at the first minute, which is, where are you with ransomware and protecting all of this data so that my clients aren't on the 6 o'clock news?
Oh, that's the tough question. That's a good one. So here's our approach to ransomware. Backup, I think, is the first step into being able to make the best out of a bad day. And so getting your backups off site, getting them secure and reliably and quickly retrievable. Now let's talk for a moment about quickly retrievable. On our computer backup side, we're the only industry player left that will encrypt a hard drive inside of our data center with your data and FedEx it to you anywhere in the world for a rapid, full or large restore. And then if you send the hard drive back to us, we refund all your costs. So we make sure you can get your data back, which is the first step. We get you fully backed up, which is the next step. On our computer backup product, it comes with 30 days of versions. So deleted files, change files, which is, again, if you can roll back to when the ransomware hit, you restore it from right before there.
Is that on the B2 cloud, or is that on the Backblaze, or both?
That is on the computer backup side. On the B2 cloud, you can set up your lifecycle rules to achieve the same thing. That lifecycle rules will let you set it up for version intervals of your definition and cleanup jobs or not. On the computer backup side, 30 days comes with your $5 a month of subscription. And we just introduced the ability to extend that default version history from 30 days to 1 year, or from 30 days to forever. Never ever lose a version of your file, which is not the use case I need. For me, I feel great about having 1 year of version history, but in fairness, with ransomware, particularly if you're getting targeted, Some of them they're increasingly intelligent enough to wait for the month to roll over in case you have that kind of protocol in place.
Right. Well, plus you have FINRA and all kinds of other compliance issues that you got to deal with. So very cool. Sadly, we're out of time, but thank you for being here. Ahin Thomas, Vice President of Backblaze, and we'll send folks to your site and you blog, and you got Twitter and all kinds of ways to connect. So we'll put all that in the show notes. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for tuning in to the SMB Community Podcast. If you found this useful, interesting, or fun, please subscribe, share with your friends, and give us a thumbs up on your favorite social media. Please check out the show notes at smbcommunitypodcast.com and give us your feedback.